went very well. We had great from our audience, great feedback from persons who listened in at their offices in all the world and our Caribbean brothers and sisters. They had wonderful, wonderful words of congratulations for the official opening of Pride Bahamas 2020. This morning, we present day 2, our session on healing. So today it's health and wellness. Real sessions, we will have group sessions, and we will also have individual speakers who will be talking about health and relatable issues to our LGBTI community. Without further ado, we will now welcome our first speaker for Pride Bahamas 2020, Helene Klonaris.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. It's 7:02 a.m. my time over here in Northern California. And I really wish I was home in the Bahamas with all of you, but we're here together in this virtual circle. And I just want to extend so many congratulations to everyone involved in Pride Bahamas 2020. This is so wonderful to see, and it's such an honor to be here. I would love if anybody wants to their video so I can see your beautiful faces. That would be amazing. It always helps to see the people that I'm sharing with, and to share with you, and to invite you to share as well eventually. I'm going to be talking with you about the practicism. I'm going to be talking to you about healing through of shamanism, a very ancient spiritual technology, and so I'm gonna use this hour to share with you some of the basic ideas of shamanism, and then I'm going to use this hour that we have together to actually take you on what we call a journey, a guided journey to bring in some healing this morning for us. So let me just start off by saying, I get this a little more comfortable here. I want to start off by saying that I left the Bahamas a long time ago, about 15 years ago now. And at the time that I left, I was very much involved in the LGBT community. I was also part of co-creating. I was one of the founding members of the Rainbow Alliance, I will say that. And I was part of, it was also co-creating Pride as well. Pride was very different. We didn't tell a whole lot of people publicly. We brought people together by word of mouth, and it was very, we were very scared of visibility still at that time. And, but we did what we could in the spaces that we had. We had church, restaurant, Pam's Parlor. I don't know how many of you remember Pam's Parlor, or if it is still in existence today. But I remember a most beautiful ceremony. We had Tommy Lee Watkins and Father Fred Fleisch, a few others, and we congregated at beautiful space, and we made church together, and it was very healing. And so I just wanted to begin with that, to just presence some of what had happened many years ago, also at home, Nassau, that I was a part of at that time. I left Nassau around 2005. I came to the US, San Francisco, and I began to write, to heal. I began to heal myself, and I began to a lot about energy medicine. I began to learn about shamanism, something I had always been interested in, but didn't think that it was possible for me to participate in it. I thought that it only belonged to people or Native American people. I didn't know very much about it. Learn and what I will share with you is that it is one of the oldest spiritual technologies on our planet. It belonged to all human communities at some point for thousands of years, tens of thousands of years, as I will let in my presentation in a moment. And it was home for me. It was another home for me. And so I'm going to stop there and share. I'm going to share with you a creation, very simple creation story. Go into what shamanism is, and then I want to connect it to our lives as LGBTQI people. So I'm going to begin with this. In the first beginning, there was darkness. In the beginning, there was light. In the third beginning, there was the intention to become flesh. In the fourth beginning, there was life. There was earth. There was the sacred tree of life. There were the holy plants under the sacred tree. There were birds and serpents, yes, and every creature in between. There was sun and air and water, and it was good. In the first beginning on earth was oneness, and it was paradise. And in the beginning, there was separation. And it too was good, but it was also confusing. There was he and she, and often he and she in the same body. Their mine and hers and his and theirs. There were passions, and these sometimes led to oneness and sometimes to separation. These led sometimes to love and bliss, and sometimes to terror and grief and rage. Shamanism is an ancient spiritual technology that begins in the darkness. It knows that light out of the dark was birthed there, that darkness was the mother light. Shamanism seeks to create balance in the dark and the light, between spirit and the flesh, male and female, and among all things in this sacred life. Shamanism is a spiritual technology, sees everything as alive and inspirited, everything as related and sacred. How many of us look at our own bodies and feel and know that our flesh is sacred? How many of us have been told that our bodies, our sex, our genders are sacred? How many of us experience our sexuality as sacred? Just feel into these questions. You don't have to respond or answer. Just feel into your body and see what comes. How many have experienced the dark as sacred, as safe, as alive, as full of also light? How many of us experience this earth as alive, conscious? And how many of us ourselves as part of a larger communion of beings without whom we could exist? So shamanism is a way of knowing and healing that existed in some form, as I mentioned, in every human community across the planet since that time, over 60,000 years ago. Some say 100,000 years ago. It is the seed worldview of most religions, and still exists in various forms in most indigenous societies in continents all over the world: African, North and South American, Asian, Australian, European. In the West, in the Mediterranean, in the Middle East, across Europe, as societies became more and more militant, building walls around their cities, going to war against one another, building up their wealth, their armies, learning and practicing the earliest forms of colonialism, building up their empires. There was also a very determined war against all those peoples who practiced what we think of now as shamanism. People who knew how to balance the dark and the light, the feminine and the masculine, the spirit and flesh. It was their healing practices that were outlawed during this time, demonized. Their temples and libraries and sacred sites were destroyed. Their priestesses and their priests, many of whom were often gender fluid, homosexual, bisexual, trans people, as we might use that term today, and they used different terms then, but these were the people who were being destroyed in these early times of colonialism, of empire building, of city-states, greater hierarchy throughout societies. And so these were the people and these were the practices, as I will explain in a moment, that were being destroyed physically and through legal methods. Healers, seers, priestesses, priests, prophets, prophetesses, they were jailed, they were burned, they were forgotten. The same wood that was used to burn European healers at the stake was also used to burn homosexuals and trans people. The same church that authorized these burnings collaborated with governments across Europe to colonize West Africans, Asians, other indigenous people across the Americas, including the Arawaks and the Caribs and the Tainos of these islands, of our Bahamas and many other Caribbean islands, whose shamanic traditions still exist in many parts of the Caribbean and in many parts of South America. For example, the Shipibo peoples in Peru along the Amazon, the Conibo peoples, many of them have can trace their ancestry also to the Arawaks, who were also peoples of the Bahama Islands. And so I want to tell you a little bit about shamanism. First of all, shamanism is a term that comes to us from the Tungus people in Siberia. Many hundreds of years ago, there were Russian anthropologists who went off to study the Tungus people in Siberia, and they encountered holy people, sacred people, medicine people, healers, who were called in the Tungus language saman or shaman. It was a word that was used to designate a particular person who could travel into the spirit realms, who could move back and forth between spiritual dimensions and this physical, ordinary dimension. The word shaman or saman also means one who sees in the dark. One who sees in the dark, one who dreams while awake. It also means one who is raised up, one who is excited. And this connects to the ways that these medicine people, these healers, these shamans, the ways that they would, the practices that they used in order to rise to a vibration that allowed them to move back and forth into the spirit realms and also into this physical realm. They would use chanting, they would use singing, they would use drumming, they would use dancing, they would use prayer, all the things that I imagine so many of us are already familiar with. And they did this, they moved back and forth into the spirit realms from this physical realm, not only because it felt good and they were excited, they were raised up, they felt connection with spirit, but they did this for the healing of themselves and others. They did this to create balance in their communities, harmony in their communities when there was strife, when there was illness, when there was accident, when there was trauma. They used this method of traveling through their consciousness into the spirit realms to find healing there, to find what was lost and bring it home. The shamanic worldview believes this. Three major principles here, core principles. First of all, everything is alive. The tree is alive, the stone is alive, the ocean is alive. Our human bodies, of course, are alive. And very often in Western society, we tend to privilege the human being over and above every other being. But shamanism says every other being is as important as the human being, right? And that every other being is alive and conscious. That's the first core principle. The second core principle is that everything that is alive is connected, that everything alive is related to us, and we are related to them. Okay, we are related to the trees, we are related to the plants and to the birds and to the lizards and to the ocean and to the fire, to the air. Everything is alive, everything is connected. And then the third key principle is that everything that is alive, everything that is connected, everything physical has a spirit dimension. The tree has a spirit. The human has a spirit. That dog sitting out there in the street has a spirit. Right? Everything alive, the stone has a spirit, the ocean has a spirit, the wind has spirit, that hurricane has spirit. Right? So these are ancient ideas, and many of them have come forward with many of our ancestors. And in many cases, that wisdom has also been disrupted by colonialism, by the witch burnings across Europe, by the interruption, by the demonization of these kinds of ideas, these practices, and the peoples who practice them. And I want to say, including people that we today may call queer, people that we call homosexual, people that we call transgender. In the shamanic worldview, there was room for all of us. There was room for the homosexual priest, and he did not have to hide who he was, to be seen, to be honored, to be blessed, and to endow others with his blessing. And the same was true for transgender persons in many of these ancient and not so ancient communities. There was a place for them to be seen, to be honored, to be blessed, and to endow others with their blessings. And so I want to talk a little bit about the shamanic practice of journeying. What does it mean to journey? I don't know if you all have experienced or have heard of this term, to journey. In the shamanic worldview, journeying into the spirit realm, as I said, happens through drumming, through dancing, through singing, through chanting, often in community, sometimes in solitary practice. But always, 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 it is done. It is a practice that is done to bring harmony and balance to the individual, knowing that the individual is always connected to the community and is always connected to the larger community of life. And we might include the stars. We must include the stars, the planets, all the universes that are in existence as well. For shamanic worldviews, understand that we are not just the earth. We are life everywhere. We are cosmic. And so this practice of journeying is a practice of basically of altering our consciousness to a higher vibration that allows us to connect with spirit. That is what the dancing does. That is what the chanting does. That is what the drumming does. And it raises up our vibration so that we can travel, quote unquote. And what I always tell my students is that we don't have to go anywhere. Our physical body stays right here. To travel means to shift our consciousness, to move to another consciousness, a vibration that is that allows us. Actually, it's a slower vibration. Right? When we are children, our minds, our brains vibrate at a much slower rate. And at that slower rate, we are in connection with the heartbeat of the earth, the vibration of the earth and all earth beings. It is the vibration of dreaming. It's a slower brain frequency. And when we vibrate at that frequency, we can go deep into our unconscious. We can go deep into the spirit realms. And in those spirit realms, we connect with the spirit of tree. We connect with the spirit of a particular plant for healing. We connect with our ancestors for healing. We connect with teachers, and these can be Jesus, these can be the Buddha, these can be any of the spiritual beings that you are already familiar with. Spirit realm is already familiar with us, and we are familiar with this spirit realm from so many different practices, but we've also been made to feel afraid of it. We've also, through colonization of African religions and European earth-based religions, so many of us have come into this world with a history, a cellular memory of being afraid, to connect with our own spirits and with the spirit beings. But what the shamanic worldview says is that without this connection, we can't really heal. We can go to talk therapy all we want and talk about our childhood and talk about what happened to us and cry about it and tell the same story over and over again and not get too far. Because what shamanism knows is that we have to go into an altered state in order to really heal. And there are two reasons for this. One is that, as I just mentioned, when we go into an altered state, we can go deep into the unconscious. And we can go and connect with the spirit realm. And it is the spirit realm that helps us to find the medicine that we need for the particular ailments that we have, the particular heart ache that we have, the particular kind of ailment, suffering that we are experiencing. The other reason is this: so many of our sufferings come from our childhoods. So many of our sufferings are begun in those early days of our existence, when perhaps we didn't even know who it was we were. And many of our families, I don't know about you, but I certainly grew up in a family that was not very aligned with me as a queer child, as a young, as a young person coming up and questioning my sexuality. There was a lot of persecution within my own family. And what we know in shamanism is that children, their brain frequencies are already altered. As babies, we are in theta, very, very slow brain wave. As 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, the brain wave begins to go a little faster, but still very altered. That's why so many of us as children don't know the difference between dreaming and ordinary everyday life. As we continue, 7 years old, we're still a little bit altered. The brain wave is going a little faster. We come into, we begin from delta and then theta, and then we go into alpha brain waves. A little bit faster. This is lucid dreaming, okay? Daydreaming. And then we go into an even faster brain wave as we get older, from 12 on up until around 21, we're developing the beta frequency, brain frequency. And this is critical mind, logic, our ability to think and strategize, etc. Once we get to that brain wave, all those other brain waves, right? It gets harder to go into them. And that's why we need the dancing and the drumming and the singing and the breath work that helps us to alter our brainwave. So journeying is altering your brainwave. And we do this so that we can connect with the spirit realm, so that we can bring in the healing that we need. And what kind of healing are we talking about here? So much of suffering is caused not simply because of the traumas we experience, but what happens when we experience trauma. One of the things that, and I won't go too much into it, and if you're really interested in this, you can email me and talk to me about taking one of my workshops or the 3-year program that I'm launching this month. But very briefly, when we experience an illness or trauma, and trauma can be an argument, trauma can be we have all sorts of different examples of this in our own lives. I think of my own life and being told by my mother when I was, just back from university, I think I was about 17 or 18 years old, that if I was intending on being gay, she said, if this is who you are, don't come back to our family, because I don't want to raise my 2 other daughters like this, right? And for me, that was particularly traumatic, to feel that I was going to be cut off by my family. And so when I speak about trauma, it can be something like that. It can be worse. We've experienced worse. In the shamanic worldview, when things like this happen to us, when we experience violence, when we experience sexual abuse, when we experience an accident, a car accident, all of those kinds of things, we experience in our bodies a splitting off. The shamanic worldview says that a part of our soul leaves us because it is so terrified in that moment. It is so terrorized. It is so afraid that it is not safe to be here. And so a part of us splits off, leaves us, and goes and dwells in this spirit realm, in what many shamans call the astral realm, right? And in psychological terms and in energy medicine terms, we might say that part of us freezes. It freezes. The rest of us goes on living, but that part froze. and we don't have access to it anymore. It could be that it's our joy that froze and we don't have access to it anymore. It could be our confidence in other human beings, our trust froze, goes away. We don't have it. Or we have maybe just a little bit of it, but it's hard. It's hard to trust people. It's hard to love people because it's also hard to find our own love for ourselves, right? And we start to experience things like depression. We experience anxiety. We experience insomnia. We experience all kinds of forms of depression. And in the shamanic worldview, we would say that that depression is soul loss, right? That a part of our soul has been lost, and we can't find it. We certainly can't find it using that beta brainwave, that fast, critical, logical mind. Can't find it. We may go to a therapist, and they can help us in so many ways to talk about what happened and to figure out how to name it. But the shamanic worldview says a couple of things. Again, when we experience something as children, we are already in an altered state. When we experience trauma, and this is very important, when we experience trauma, the impact of that trauma takes us into an altered state. Okay? And the only way, one of the only ways to really change what happened to us is to go back into an altered state and to find that part of our lost soul and bring her or him or them home. That's what I want to bring to you all. This is what I want to bring, the gift of shamanism that is our birthright, I believe, every one of us, is a profound spiritual technology that reminds us that we can heal. And it doesn't have to take 15 years in a therapist's office. Blessings, blessings, blessings to the therapists, of whom I have experienced some amazing people. Fred Fleischer was one of them for me. And I've had many since then. I needed to have many. But what I found in shamanism is that it takes us back into the altered state so that we can re-imprint our psyche. We can release the trauma, and we can bring in what is our birthright, what we began with before we even became a soul, before we even became this physical body. We were light. And before we were light, we were part of the void, the darkness, who many indigenous cultures say the darkness was our mother. And many indigenous cultures say the light was our father. And perhaps we can say mother, father. We can change the words perhaps, but the quality of what I'm talking about, we can feel it. It doesn't even have to have a name or a gender. And so this is what I want to bring to you today. I want to invite you to participate in this moment, and you can do this through the chat. I want to invite you to think about your own lives. I want you to feel into your body, your sacred body. I want you to feel into your hands, your sacred hands. I want you to feel into your feet, your sacred feet. I want you to feel into your pelvis, your sex, your sacred sex. I want you to feel into your belly, your heart, your neck, the back of your head. I want you to feel the vibration of your heart moving through your whole body. And I want you to connect with yourself. Where in your body have you felt loss of soul? You don't even have to know what happened. Shamanism says we don't have to even know what the story is. Spirit knows, your unconscious knows, right? Feel into your sacred body and ask your body, was there a time when you felt a part of you go missing? Feel into your body and perhaps bring to mind a memory. When you were made to feel like it wasn't okay to be you. When you were made to feel there wasn't a place for you in this world, in your family, in your culture. And I want you can speak it out or you can write it into the chat. What aspect of you may have gone missing? And you can say things like my faith, trust, my joy. What part of you do you imagine is somewhere else? What part of your soul do you feel may have been stolen, may have gone into exile? It could be, that there's something called essence that we're all born with as children, as babies. That's why when you look at a baby, you can't help but smile, right? When they are in their laughter, I'm going to start reading this beautiful chat that's coming through. Let's take a look. Okay, beautiful. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Communicating effectively with myself and others. Yeah. What else? Hello, Victor Rollins. Hello, Bruno. I'm seeing Madame Pearl. I'm seeing Caressa. I'm seeing Ide. I'm seeing Billy and Reds and Rudolph and Kelly and Ricky and Ayoka, Natino, EJ, Patricia, Aaron, Antoine, Alexis. See if there's something that you want to share in this moment. And again, it's okay if you don't know what that is. Okay. So I want to take you on a journey. How does that feel? I want to take you on a little journey. It's going to be a guided journey. I won't just take you and leave you there. I'm going to take you and guide you because I want us this morning to retrieve some of those things. So you can participate in whatever way feels right to you. Okay? Any way that feels right to you. Before I go on, I'm very aware that we only have an hour, but are there any questions before we begin this? I want to take you on a guided journey. It's going to be very, the intention of this journey will be to retrieve parts of ourselves that went missing. Okay, and as I said, it can be your joy of life. It can be a sense of, as we see here, being able to communicate with others and with myself. It could be my trust in the world. It could be so many things. It can just be that sparkle in your eye. Does anyone have any questions? What is my email address? I'm going to post it right here. Okay. And Okay. And this is my website, so you have that as well. And also know that I do one-on-one work with people. Okay. Any questions about what we're doing or what I've said? You're so welcome. I want to say I can feel you all here, and it really, I feel you in my heart. When I left Nassau and when I left the Bahamas many, many years ago, I never thought that I would be able to share this kind of work. I felt a lot of demonization around a lot of this, and took me a lot of healing to get here. And it's powerful work. It's transformational work, and I want to bring it home. I want to bring it home. And we can do that in so many ways right now. So so let's go on a journey. Okay, I'm going to take you on a journey, and before we do that, I'm going to ask you to breathe with me so that we can get a little bit altered. And again, if this is uncomfortable for you, you can just watch, you can just listen. But if you'd like to participate, and if you'd like to learn a little technique for allowing yourself to get a little bit altered, here it is. So I'm going to offer this to you now. Okay. All right. So get yourself into a really comfortable position. If you aren't already, you can sit up for this. Okay. And one of the simplest methods that we can do for getting into an altered state, besides dancing to house music or drumming and other kinds of beautiful movement, is simply breathing, right? And before we even begin to breathe, I'm just going to invite you to feel your body, come into your body, feel the weight of yourself in your buttocks, right? Your hips, allow all of your weight to just rest there. Drop your shoulders. If your legs are tensed, allow them to just release. Okay, you can sit with your legs crossed if you want to, or touching the ground, and really let your jaw go slack. And so a way to do that is just to open your mouth a little, and release. You can let your shoulders fall forward a little bit, just release them. Take a breath. You can close your eyes for this. And I'm going to invite you to do what we call dragon breath. Dragon breath is 2 breaths in through your nose and 1 out your mouth. And it goes like this. Ha. Ha. Okay, some folks like to stick out their tongues when they do this. It's all part of just, we're trying to get down to the earth. We're trying to get down to the vibration of the earth, right? And so just allow yourself to just let it literally all hang out. That's right. That's right. That's right. I'm reading the chat. Probably going to stop reading it in a moment because I'm going to become altered. So the breath is this. Ha, ha. You can stick out your tongue. Ah, just allowing it to all hang out. Ha, 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 ha. Beautiful. So just continue to do that. Ha. Earlier in the morning, it's easier to become altered. Ha. We're just coming out of the dream state. We're coming out of the unconscious. Ha. Ha. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay. Okay. So close your eyes and really go within. Let's let go of everything I just said. It's not important. Just let it go. The ego likes to have something to hold on to. And so now we're going to invite the ego to just relax. And we're going to invite our body to be very present. Okay? And breathe. And as you breathe, you're descending deep into yourself. Feel the tingling perhaps in your hands, in your arms, in your feet. Feel your connection to the earth, to the soil, to the ocean, to the air. And I invite you to imagine a place in nature that is familiar to you and where you feel completely safe. Okay. Bring to mind a place in nature where you feel very safe. And see yourself there sitting, perhaps with your back against a tree, or maybe you're sitting overlooking the ocean. And with your imagination, bring yourself even more deeply into this safe and sacred place in nature. Feel the air on your skin. Notice what time of day it is. Maybe it's morning, and maybe you see the sun rising. Feel the warmth of that sun on your skin, the top of your head. See the colors around you. Notice what smells do you smell. Maybe it's jasmine or the fragrance of mango blossoms. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you smell? Bring yourself into that beautiful place in nature. And know that you are a sacred, precious being. And that it cannot be otherwise. Know that you are connected to all beings, to all that ever was and all that ever will be. Ashe, Aho, blessed be. And in a moment, you see a being walking towards you. And it is, as it gets closer, you notice that it is an animal, another creature of some kind. Perhaps it is a bird, or perhaps it is a four-legged creature. And as it gets closer to you, you feel a sense of connection. And this animal being says to you, I will accompany you on the journey. I am your companion. I am your spirit ally. I've come to help you and to show you the way. And so with this animal ally, this spirit being, you're going to go on a journey from this sacred, safe place in nature. We're going to go together, and I will be your guide, and I will call in protection for all of us. I will call in the sacred star grandmothers and grandfathers, the elders, the shamanic elders who have been doing this work for thousands of years. And they know this is your birthright, and they know healing is possible. And so they are here protecting us as we journey. And the trees are here protecting us as we journey. And the sun and the moon and the night and the day is here protecting us as we journey. And so your animal spirit, your guide, brings you. Perhaps you fly, perhaps you walk. You see a tree, you come to a very large tree. And this tree is hollow inside. And you enter this tree and you notice right away that there is a staircase inside the tree. And your animal companion guides you to begin walking down. And you notice as you walk down through the center of this huge tree that there are sparkles of light inside the tree and in the darkness. And the dark that you thought was so dark inside this tree is filled with sparks of light. And you are not afraid. And you descend with your spirit animal down this staircase that seems to go down forever, but suddenly you see a doorway. Notice this door. What color is this door? What is it made out of? Is it wooden? Is it green? Or red or black? What color is this door? Do you see any special markings on this door? And you ask your spirit animal, shall we move through this door? Should we go through this door? And yes, yes, says this spirit animal, your guide, your companion. And so you open the door. And you move through this door into yet another realm. And this place is strange because it seems to be out in the middle of space. You see stars, and it is deep and velvety black and dark, but there are so many stars. So many sparks of light that you do not feel alone. You do not feel afraid. And while it is also cosmic, you see in the distance trees, and you see a city, and you see perhaps the ocean, and you see all of life as though you are in the front seat of the most extraordinary cosmic landscape. You are not afraid because you feel connected to everything that is here. And as you are floating or standing or perhaps sitting in this extraordinary cosmic landscape, you see a figure walking towards you, or flying, or floating. And this figure is filled with light. And it might be golden light, but it might also be a rainbow of lights. What colors do you see as this figure who is very familiar to you walks or floats or dances towards you? And you feel that this figure is related to you. They are familiar to you. And as they come closer, you feel a upwelling of love, so much love coming from them to you. And you know in that moment that this is an ancestor. And perhaps you know this ancestor, but perhaps you don't. But what you feel is that this ancestor is here to tell you it is profoundly right for you to be who you are. See and feel this ancestor. What do they do? Do they take you by the hands? Do they embrace you? Do you have questions for this ancestor who is here filled with light? And as they move close to you, you feel the love that they have for you, for all of you. And you see that light, that glow, these sparks dancing off them and connecting to you and enveloping you in the most extraordinary light of all the colors you could possibly imagine. Suffusing your being with light of unconditional, divine love. And they have gifts for you, this ancestor. And they want to show you these gifts if you are open, if you are willing to receive these gifts. And they say to you, these gifts, they are yours. They come from your soul, these gifts. They are part of you. I'm here to return these to you. I'm here to return to you what is yours. They went into exile, but I'm returning them to you now. And I have 4 gifts for you. And so now, feel into yourself. Are you willing to receive these gifts of your own spirit? Are you willing to bring them home? Feel into your longing for wholeness. Feel into your longing to be fully yourself in this world. And if you are ready to receive these gifts of your own spirit, say yes. Say yes to this ancestor who is bringing you these gifts. And one by one, your ancestor retrieves these gifts from this cosmic world and hands them to you. But because this is your journey, you get to decide, you get to see and imagine, how will you receive each of these gifts? The first gift is from the East. The first gift is from Spirit, from the East, from the place of the rising sun, from resurrections. And so receive this gift, see it, imagine it. Allow yourself to receive it in whatever way feels right for you. Maybe you receive it right into your heart. And the second gift comes from the south, from fire. What have you lost that the fire would like to return to you through the hands of your ancestor? And receive that now. And say yes if it feels right to say yes. Receive this gift from the south, from the fire. Receive it into your heart, receive it into your body, wherever your body would like to receive this gift. Bring it into you now. Beautiful. And the next gift comes to you from the west, from the oceans, from the water, from the deep ocean. Allow this gift to come in and receive it into your body in whatever way feels right to you. Beautiful, beautiful. And as these gifts come in, they are filling your body with light, with extraordinary cosmic light. And the fourth gift comes to you from the north, from the earth, from the minerals of the earth. This part of your own soul. Your ancestor is returning to you now, this fourth gift. What is it? See it. And if you are ready to receive it, say yes. And receive this gift from your ancestor in whatever way feels right to you. See how it comes in and suffuses your body with extraordinary cosmic light. The light of the divine that was here in the beginning and that is impossible to destroy. You are this light. You are this unique expression of the divine. And this unique expression of the divine can never be destroyed. We can forget, but it is always there. And as you receive all of these gifts, imagine yourself now in this place, filled with radiant cosmic light. And that light is lighting up every cell of your being, lighting up every organ of your body, lighting up every part of who you are, lighting up the strength and your power to speak your truth in the world, to act your truth in the world, to stand your truth in the world. This light that cannot be destroyed is you in the world. And so feel it and dance with it and twirl with it and swirl with it and move with it. And thank your ancestor and release them. And thank this cosmic landscape and thank it and release it. And return now, filled with your light, lighting up that staircase, moving through that doorway and that hollow tree, and come back. Return, return, return to that safe and sacred spot in nature. Return, return, return to yourself. Return, return to this present moment, here, now, here, now. It is said, it is done, beloveds. It is said, it is done. Blessings to each of you. Blessings. May you be this sacred light, this divine light. May what is returned to you walk in your light. May you know your wholeness, your sacred fabulousness. And may you bless everyone that comes into contact with you, with your light, with your truth, with your sacredness. Ashe, Aho, blessed be. Thank you, everybody. And so if there's anything that wants to be said as you return, you can write it into the chat or you can speak it. I know we've gone over time just a little bit, but it's hard to rush these shamanic things. I send you all so much love. And I ask for blessings for Pride Bahamas 2020. And for each of you. And for your families, your chosen families, and for your communities. And blessings to all of you. Thank you, Alexis.
Special thank you to Helene Klonaris for being a part of Pride Bahamas 2020 and helping us with a method of healing and showing us the difference between spirituality and religion through a practical way. Thank you once again. We will now go into our next session. The link will be shared. We will come out of this Zoom and we will go into another Zoom session. The link will be shared. You can check your emails for those who have registered into our next session, which will be Structural Violence by Dr. Ian Beck. So you can log out of this link and we'll go into our next link. Thank you.